Stories. One of the best sources, if you're reading short stories, is probably the Henry Prize, Best American Short Story. Just the range of them. There's always whenever I read them, though, I just shake my head because they're just so stunning. Many of them, in terms of how filled out they are. With respect to writers about Vietnam, I think that again, Robert Owen Butler's Good Scent from a Strange Mountain is very good. Tim O'Brien, of course, is excellent with respect to that. But a lot of what I've read, interesting enough, is actually French writers who've never been translated into English. They're not even available because the French were there for 80 years. And then Jean Lartigue, who was a reporter, a guy named Jean Hugron, who actually was a truck driver in Indochina throughout all of Indochina. It's kind of interesting. A lot of these guys have never been translated, and then some of the older writers, because I felt that one of the problems was we really were not in Vietnam long enough really to have much of an influence or, in fact, to get to know them. And I felt the French had a longer record of that, not necessarily a good record. Another guy, Erron Bergaud, was a French writer who wrote a trilogy, Sud-Lointain, which is very popular in France, actually. And then Vietnamese writers. The most important Vietnamese writer writing in English is Xuân Thu Huong, who is a woman writer who I would recommend to everybody. She was part of sort of like a youth volunteer squad of North Vietnamese, and I think there were like 47 or 50 people in her unit, and only 3 survived. She was one of them. And then she became very, very critical of the Vietnamese government. She's living in exile in France. But her books have been translated into English. It's D-U-O-N-G, but it's pronounced Duong in Southern Vietnamese, or Duong, Central Vietnamese, Duong in North Vietnamese, Thuhuong. And she wrote a book called Paradise of the Blind. That was the first one that was translated in 1993, and the latest is called The Zenith, which I'm reading now. But there haven't, sadly, there haven't been that many Vietnamese writers who've been translated. A guy named Bao Minh wrote a book called The Sorrow of War, but that's about the only book that you can find by him. Which again sort of indicates a lot, that because there are a lot of Vietnamese writers out there. Curbstone Press had, in Willimantic, Connecticut, had published 7 or 8 books in a series called Voices from Vietnam, Vietnamese writers. But they're now stopped publication. So